Hello, this is the second recording where I'm going to demonstrate the concepts of the VLAN trunking protocol and dynamic trunking protocol. Okay, so what's happening now is the network is growing, and here I do have two different networks. There's one network which is connected to switch 1, and there's another network which is connected to switch 2. So on all of these PCs, I've already configured the IP addresses. You can see by the lights on here that everything is lit. Okay, so what I haven't done at this point is create any of the VLANs. Or connect any of these as trunks. Actually, I'm going to come in and connect these two switches. They are simply connected. Later on, I'll set them as trunk ports. Okay, so I'm going to go on this first on switch 1 and then enable. Okay, or before I go in, if I were to go to show VLANs, show VLAN brief, you can see that there are only the default VLANs, 1, and then there is these other ones, the default ones. All the interfaces, as you can see, are on VLAN 1. The other command that you'd need to be familiar with is I'll do show VTP status. I don't have any of those set. So you can see I did talk about the VTP domain. You can see that it has been set to null. There is no name for this domain. And then the mode is set to server. You remember that there is the server, there is the client, there is the transparent, and then there is no password. The version is 2, but you can see the VTP version 2 here, and the revision number is 0. So there are no VLANs created yet. And keep in mind that with the server mode, you can add, remove, modify VLANs, whereas with the client, you can send and receive advertisements that have been set by the server. Okay, so that's the VTP status. And then you can also use the show interface trunk. You can see on here, there are no trunks. Trunking has not been set on this switch. So I'm going to go into global configuration mode by typing config T, and then I'm going to start by creating VLAN 10. Okay, so on VLAN 10, I'm going to give it the name sales. All right, so that VLAN has been created. If I were to go and do show VLAN brief, you can see VLAN 10 is now active, but no ports have been assigned to that VLAN yet. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the configuration mode, global configuration mode, and then I'm going to go into interface FA01, and then on here, I'm going to attach it, to assign it to VLAN 10. So I'm going to type in the switch port access VLAN 10. All right. So I'll verify. you can now see that interface 10 has been assigned to that. And by looking at this, you can see that this has been, the connection has changed color. So I'm going to go on switch 2, and then I'm going to do the same thing, enable config terminal, and then VLAN 10, name cells, and then I'm going to go to interface F0, 1, and then switch port access VLAN 10, right? So that had that this has been assigned to that VLAN. What I haven't done so far is to set the trunk ports yet on these two switches. So I'll go to switch 1, and on switch 1, I'm going to enter the I want interface F024. That's this interface right here on switch 1. So I'm going to press enter. And then for this one, you'll recall that the commands for that would be switch port mode. If we type in switch port mode, you can there are different modes. There's the access, there's the dynamic auto, there's the dynamic desirable, there's the trunk. So I'll go with a switch port mode trunk. So that interface has been set to the trunk. So if I were to do the exit and then show interface trunk, you can see that port 24 is set to trunking. Trunking is on, as you can see right here. And then there is no connection with the other switch. What I'm going to do is, you may recall in the previous demonstration, I did mention that if they are both set to auto, that's not going to work. One has to be, both switches cannot be auto. Communication cannot take place. On the second switch, I'm going to interface FA20, FA024, and then I'm going to do switch port mode. I'm going to set it to dynamic desirable. All right, so that will be changed to status up. That will take a minute. So if I were to go to show interface trunk, you can now see that that interface has been set to desirable. So trunking should take place. But one thing that I haven't done on either of these is to set up VTP to set up the names, so you can see that's going, they are lit, things are going on. So if I were to jump on PC1 and do ping 192.168.1.30, I know that's the IP address for that PC on the other side. They're on the same VLANs, so communication is taking place. If I were to do 40, there is no connection because those are on different VLANs. This one is on 40, but these can communicate because they are on the same VLAN. I'm going to come in and do something different. All right, so on switch number 1, I'm going to go in and use the VTP domain that has not been set yet. Domain, I'm going to give it the name net 170. Okay, so you can see the domain has been changed from now to 170. So that has been changed. And I won't change the mode. I'll leave that on server at this point. I won't do the version. I'll leave it the way it is. If I were to come on switch number 2 and then config T, and then I'm going to go ahead and say VTP domain Cisco. All right. And then I'm going to do VTP mod client. All right. So I've done 2 things on that switch. I have set the VTP mode to client. I have set it to Cisco. So now these are on different domains. If I were to going to show VTP status, you can see there is the VTP version 2, the revision 0. It's set to client. Oh, I did misspell the word Cisco there. I typed CISO, but you can see that has been changed. So if I were to, I can go there and show VTP status. You can see this is the mode is server, and it's set to net 170. So it's a question of time before the link here can go down. So if I were to ping 30, that's going on. The version is 2. So let's see, config terminal. And I'm going to do VTP version 1. Okay, I cannot do that since this is in client mode, but I'm going to do that for this one, which is in server mode. VTP version 1. VTP mode is already in version 1. Okay, show VTP status. Okay, that's on my version on my server there. I'm not sure I'll have time to do this, but if I'll connect these other switches. Okay, so since I have a whole bunch of switches, I would have to go and set the and set those tracking modes, and set the domain on all of these. If I set the domain right now, I have